I'm Patrick Bailey with whiteboardcoder.com. Today is April 17th, 2015. Today I'll be going over how to install and set up a Postgres 9.3 database on Ubuntu 14.04. Also, I'm going to create a database and set up a few role-restricted users, a read-only user and a read-write user. So here I am on my database. Here I am on Ubuntu. And just to show you that I actually do have 14.04, I'll do an LSB release. There I am, I have 14.04. First thing I need to do, since this is a pretty fresh install, is run sudo apt.get update to grab all the latest files. Should only take a few minutes to download these. Well, not even a few minutes. It goes pretty quick. It's 2015. Things go quick now, right? Yeah, fairly quick. Okay, and with that, I'm updated. Next thing I need to do is to install Postgres. Now, lucky for me, since I want Postgres 9.3, the default install for Postgres on Ubuntu 14.04 is 9.3, so hooray. So to do that, sudo apt-get install Postgres, and let it install. Do yes, and let it work its magic. And this goes rather quickly, so I'm not going to bother speeding up the film right here. It'll just be real time. It's creating a Postgres user. Life is good. Okay, there we go. Now one thing it did is it created a Postgres user, and we'll use that user to log into the database. That user is also the admin of the database. So sudo switch user Postgres. Now I'm the Postgres user, and then I'll log into the database psql-d Postgres -u Postgres. And now I'm in the database. Now the first thing I'm going to do is create a few users. Now I'm going to kind of go through this whole procedure I wrote up and show you where I made mistakes along the lines as I was trying to figure this out, because I'm not a database admin. I don't do this every day. So I had a couple hiccups, and I'll kind of show you the hiccups I had. So first thing I'll do is I'll create a user, and I'll call it app read only, RO, with password, my password, if I can spell, boom. So that role has been created, and I'll create the read-write. So now those two users have been made. Also, as a note to myself, you can alter the users pretty quick. You alter if you want to change the password. Alter user, app read-write, with password, my new password. So that the password's been updated for that user. Now I want to create a database. Create database, and I'll call it my app for my app database. Yay, got a database. Now I can log into that database or switch to that database. So you do /c, and I call the database my app. So now I'm connected to my app as the Postgres admin user. Now, what you need to do at this point is you need to revoke permissions to this database. The defaults are I can actually log in as these users right now and into this database and create tables and start mucking around, and that's not good. So you actually want to revoke all their privileges for pretty much everyone except for an admin, so except for like a super admin. So I'll do revoke all on database my app from public. Now I'm not doing this all from memory. I got a cheat sheet over here because I'm not that good. And you have the schema. So revoke all on schema public from public. Okay, so all that's been revoked. So now I can run, let's see, /du, and that looks a little atrocious in this small screen. Well, I'll stretch things out for a second. Okay, you can see that there's my two users right there, app read only and app read write. They don't have any special attributes, and they're not members of any other group. Now I can start granting permissions. So I can say grant connect on database my app to app read only. And so what that's saying is now the user app read only, app RO, can attach, has permission to connect to the database my app. And we can do the same thing for read write. Now here's where I got a little confused, because I thought that would grant you some permissions that you could see in du and with the /du command, but you can't. That's not where that information is held. Where that information is held, you can do a /l. Yeah, again, it's not too pretty. Let me make this bigger. And over here you can see the access privileges to the database my app, and you can see that the app read only has connection and app read write has connection. So those permissions were added. They can connect, but they can't do anything. So we have to grant select. Our read only user, we only want him to have select. So grant select on all tables in schema and schema public to app. Oh, I guess I can, here I'll make this a little clearer so it can be read. Grant select on all tables in schema public to app read only. Oh, I didn't quite do that right. Grant select on all tables. Grant select on all tables in schema public to app read only. There we go. And then for the read write user, he needs more permission, so we're going to grant him select, update, insert, delete on all tables in schema public to app read write. What I do on what I do wrong. Okay, grant select update update insert delete. Oh, extra comma there. Okay, so grant select update insert delete on all tables in, I mean, it doesn't have to be capitalized, but have it in schema public to app read write. There we go. Now if I do that, we'll see that their permissions didn't really change here. You can't really see this. They still just have connections. So this got me a little confused when I was doing this the first time. So I went, okay, what's going on? Well, these are table permissions. So I can come over here and there's no tables right now. So let me create a table. Create table, test, ID, serial, name, var, car, 40. Okay, so now I got a table. So I can do a /z to see my permissions in the table. And now this threw me for a loop too, because what occurred here is whenever you grant permissions, they grant permissions on the tables that do exist, not tables that are going to be made later. So even though I ran all those grant permissions, they were only valid for tables that existed when you ran those tables. So now I can rerun those. So I can come up here and I can let me just run one grant. So let me do grant select. Now if I do a /z, we can see that the app read only has read access to this table. but it doesn't actually have access to the sequence, which it needs access to that as well. So you can go through and rerun all these, and in fact at this point I realized that I wasn't giving all the permissions that I needed. What you would need to do for a read-only user is you have to run these 3 commands. You have to grant select on all tables in schema public to I gotta do this in 2 lines so you can actually read it. Grant select on all tables in schema public to read only. Okay. Oh. Boy, I need to learn how to type better, huh? Select. There we go. So you have to run that command, and then that gives you select permission on your normal tables. But then you have to do select on all sequences in schema public to app read only. So you got to run that second command, and then also you have to grant usage. Grant usage on schema public to app read only. There you go. So now I've got all the permissions I need. So now if I do a /z, I should be good. I can see that I have read permissions on the test table and the test ID sequence table. Well, it's a sequence, not a table. Now for the other user, the read write user, I'd have to run the following 3 commands. Grant select, update, insert, delete on all tables in schema public to app read write. I'd do that one, and then I'd also do grant select update on all sequences in schema public to app read write. And then I have to write this final one, grant usage on schema public to app read write. Okay, now we're good. I do a /z, and I can see that my app read write, he can, I got my cheat sheet over here. Let's see. He can insert. A is for insert. R is for select. W is for update, and D is for delete. So he has all the permissions he needs to get his job done. However, the problem here is if I create a new table, it has no permissions. So for example, I can scroll up here to where I created a table, and I'll just give it another, you're not gonna make my life easy. Okay, didn't like that. Need to learn how to type better. Test 2 ID serial name varchar 40. There we go. So now I should have 2 tables. If I do /z, you can see here is test 2, and it's got no permissions. Now I don't want to deal with that because that's going to be a big pain in the butt as time goes by. What I want is these default permissions added every single time a new table is made. Now there's a little bit of a trick to that, not much of one, but you have to think about it when you create new tables. You can set up how you want the permissions to be set when you create new tables, but that permission is based on who created the tables. So if I come in here, so right now I can quit out of here, /q. I'm the Postgres user. I'm logging as Postgres. I log in here, I'm Postgres. And so if you decide to use the Postgres user as an example to make your tables, then you'd have to run these commands I'm going to list here right now that alter how tables are created by that user. If it's just a warning. So if you have another user, if you have dbadmin and you make a user called dbadmin and he makes a table, well, he needs to change his rules on what happened when he makes a table. Okay, so here's what I would do. Here's what you can do. So you have to actually check in, you have to open the database. So I'll go back into the database again. I'm connected there, and you have to run this from here. Alter default privileges in schema public grant select on tables to app read only. Okay, and then I need to run alter default privileges in schema public grant select on sequences to app read only. There we go. And then I need to do the same thing for the read write user. So alter default privileges in schema public grant select update insert delete on tables to app read write. Oh. Got an I there, I think. Messed it up again. Oh. Another comma after delete. There we go. And then alter default privileges in schema public grant select update on sequences to app read write. Boom. So now we should be good. So now if I create a new table, so I'll do create table test new ID serial name bar car 40. Right. Okay, so now I got a new table, and the new table has the privileges set correctly. All right, so now any new table that is made by the Postgres user will have its information set up correctly. I should say new tables made in this database. Otherwise, you have to grant those permissions special per database on what occurs when that user makes a table, what its defaults are. Okay, so now we got that going. Now we want to log in. So those two users should be able to log in from to this database. So I'll quit out of here. And it doesn't matter who I log in as or where I log in from. I should be able to do psql host localhost dash user app read only, and then log into the my app database, and then type in the password. Oh, if I can type it in right. Oh, lowercase. There we go. So now I'm in. And I can do a /z, and I can see all the tables there. And I can do a select all from test. And there's nothing in there. Oh, speaking of, let me get out of this and go add something to the test. So let me go back to the Postgres user. Connect to the my app database and insert some values. So we'll do insert into test name values test me, boom, and we'll do test me too. So now we actually have some values. Select all from test. We got some values. So quit out of here, exit out of here, and let's log in again as the app read-only user. Okay, so now I should be able to do select. Oh, yeah, I'm in the right database. Select all from test. Let's see. I don't know why that first one didn't work. But anyway, select all from test, and there I can see my data. Now, if I... This user should not be able to create a table. So if I do try to create a table, create table, cannot create. Permission denied. Perfect. Also, I should not be able to insert any data into a existing data as this user. So insert into test name values cannot insert. Permission denied. Perfect. So this user has the right permissions I want them to have. So I'll quit out of that. I'll log in as the read-write user. And they should have select permissions. Oh, I forgot the from. Oh, that's what I was doing. Okay, select works. Insert should work. Insert into name. Oh, insert into test name values. Insert should work. And there it is. Also, I should be able to delete stuff from the table. So delete from test where ID equals 3. And it deleted. Fantastic. Now, I should not be able to create tables as this user. So if I do create table, cannot create ID serial name varchar 40. Permission denied. Perfect. So now my users are how I want them to be. Now, on to the next thing. Now that we have our database kind of set up how we want, we got these users, we got a read-only user, a read-write user, and if I create any new tables, those new tables will have the correct permissions in the database. So our database is kind of set up. Now, what I want to do now is I want to be able to access, I want to be able to log into this database from a different server. So I'll pull this window over here and open up one of my other windows over here, which is on a different server, which hopefully has PSQL. Well, let me log into one of my other machines here. I'll log into machine 160. So here am I in this machine, which should have PSQL. Perfect. But now if I go PSQL-host 192.168.0.24, which I think is this machine, ifconfig, let's see if it is. I'm going to be, yeah, 24, so that's right. Okay, so I log into there, use my user, app, read-only, my app. I'm going to get connection refused. Now the reason being is the server out of the box is only set up to listen to the local host, just as kind of a protection. So we need to change that. Now there's a few ways you can change it, and I'm going to show you how to do that right here. But before you start changing it, the first thing you need to do is to go determine which boxes you want it to have access to this, or what range of boxes. Now if you have a range of boxes, one good thing to do is to do the net mask calculations.
So here's a website, and you can go to this. Now, what you'll see here is you can put a base address in here. So like my network is 192.168.0 something. Now, if I want all my machines to have access to this database, I can fiddle with this net mask here. And so in this case, if I put a /24 and run the calculations, it says my host minimum is 1, my maximum is 254. And so that's exactly what I would want. Now, if I wanted to do a specific server, just 160, what you can do is 32, and that should only give you a single server. And so that says min and max. Well, that's what I do for 160 anyway. The calculations are I always get confused by these calculations, so it's always something to fiddle with if you want a range, because this is how you have to calculate ranges. It's one of those things I don't fiddle with much, but when I do, I just go do a calculation and make sure it's right and call it good. Okay, but anyway, there's that number for me, 192.168.00/24, and that gets me my full network. Now what you have to do is you go in here into your Postgres server, and we switch over to the Postgres user, and then they have to edit this file. There's a file, add etc Postgres 93 main, and there's PG. Let me just make this bigger so you can see. And there should be a PG_HBA.conf file. So open that guy up, and this has some definitions on who can connect to your database. So if you scroll down to the bottom here, you'll see this host all 127.00132 MD5, and that basically is saying the local host can connect to this database. But you can even remove that. So what I'm going to do is I'll just copy this real quick and paste it at the end. And what I'm going to do is change this. So I want all, and I want my range. So I'm going to replace this number with 192.168.0, and then 24, and that'll give me my full range. And there's MD5. Well, I'm going to go over that in a second, but just leave it MD5. That just means password has to be encrypted as it comes over the line. So you save it like that. Then there's another file you need to edit. It's in etc Postgres 93 main, and let's see, postgresql.conf file. And then you got to scroll down here or do a search for listen, and you'll find this, there it is, listen address, which is commented out right now. Just open it up, and what right now it's set to only listen to the local host. But I'll set it to listen to everyone in creation. Now there are ways to change this. I'd have to go look it up myself right now. I'm not sure. I think you can do things like, I think you can do this and just listen to a single one, and then space or comma, and you can add them individually. I'd have to go look it up. I don't recall off the top of my head. But star, that means everybody. So I'll save it to star, so now anyone can connect into this, or it can attempt to connect into it, but it still is going to check its IP address to make sure it's in that range. So I'll save that. Now I'll restart the server. Well, let me get out of the Postgres user because they don't have sudo access. So I'll do sudo service Postgres and stop. I'll stop the Postgres database and start it so that my changes take effect. So now it should be listening, and my server over here should be in a valid range. So let me try that. So now let me connect over here. Perfect, I connected. Put in my password. And I can connect from here, and life is grand.
Now let's show you a few other things that you can do to set it up. A few other setups. So let me quit out of here and exit out of here. So now I'm on a different box. I'm not on 0160, but I'm still in the valid range. So it should work to, I should be able to log in from here if I do the same command. And I can. Okay. Boom. As a quick show, here I'll switch over to the Postgres user, and I will edit the PG_HBA. I'll scroll down to the bottom here, and I'll change this to only 160. So 160 and 32. And save it, and restart, stop the database, and start it again. Now, since this box I am on right now is not 160, it should reject me, and it does. But if I log over to 160, it lets me in. Just to show you can limit it down to one IP address. And also, in fact, I need to go back there anyway. I'd have to go test this. It's been a while. But if my memory is correct, you can... I'm not going to test it right now, but you can just keep adding lines. So if I wanted 160 and 150 to work, I think you just add an extra line like that and add as many as you want and it works. I think. Don't check it. Now, another thing you can do, rather than be MD5, you can use trust. I prefer to have MD5 myself, but if you put trust in here, what you're telling Postgres is anybody who's in this address range, trust them. And trust any user coming from them. So it could be the Postgres user, it could be the app read-only user, the app read-write. If anyone's coming from this IP address, trust them and let them through. And they don't need to use a password. So if I do trust and I reboot, and I'm on 160 now, right? And then I log in, no password. I worked at a place that set things up this way, but they only trusted limited boxes, but then they let everybody through. It depends on what your work model is. I can't say one's better than the other one, but that's how you would set it up. The danger of that is if you have no passwords, I can be the Postgres user, be the super admin, and now I can wreak havoc, right? Anyway. Okay, I did the single IP address login. Let me see what else I got. Okay. Well, this is the part where you probably want to point other people to, because I'm going to kind of go through a quick setup using scripts on how to do exactly what I've done. I'm going to go reset the server back to a base, so nothing's installed, and I'm going to start all over again. But I'm going to do it quicker, and I'm going to use a script this time so that it's easier to use the script later on, and you can more easily create your users. I reset my server, so now it's basically back to square one. So like if I do which PSQL, I should have nothing. Perfect. So we have to do a sudo app.get update again. Let that run. And then do a sudo app.get -get install Postgres again. PostgreSQL. Boom. Let this guy install. And I'm kind of do it all in one quick blow here rather than just do individual parts. I want to make a new database. I want to add a read-write user and a read-only user, and I want, whenever a new table is made, for those users to have the correct access. And I also want to give permission to my network to connect to the database.
So switch to the Postgres user. And then what I'm going to do, cd and go back to their base directory, I'm going to make a script file. That I'm going to use to feed into this database. Now I have I already have it made, so I'm going to paste it in and kind of go over it real quick. And I'll probably post it on my website somewhere at some point. Okay. Let's go to the top here. Let's make this a little bigger. So when I run this script, it's going to create my two users, the read-only and read-write one. It's going to create my database, log in, and then it's going to revoke all the permissions on the new database for everyone. And then it's going to grant the connect permission to the read-only. At this point, I also found out that you have to, if you revoke all the permissions, you actually have to grant a few, even though there's no tables that exist per se. There are a few tables that exist, and so you have to actually grant permission to those. So you have to, anyway, you grant these permissions. You do the same thing for the read-write user, so you grant him permissions, and then you go down and you set up the privileges. So now you alter the privileges for the read-only user, so that's going to be what's going to occur when you create a new table. Same thing for the read-write. And then I put a section in here to create a few tables, nothing much in there. And then actually to insert a little, and then I put a section here to insert just a little bit of data. Most of this is probably what you want. You know, you create a read-only user, a read-write user, and then you create your own database, you give them the correct permissions, and this top section is probably what you want for simple databases. And then of course figure out your own tables, and if you want to insert some default data, you put it in here. And there you go. So save that. Then you can feed that data up. So you can do PSQL user Postgres -d Postgres -a -f, and then the script name. And then it should run. Then it should just run the script. And so now I should have a database. So if I log in. I can user Postgres -d. Is that right? Yeah. Select all. And there's a little bit of data in there. And if I do a /z, there's my users. So looking good. /q to quit. Now I need to edit my PG_HBA file. Etc. Postgres 9.3 main PG HBA. There we go. Edit that guy. I'll copy this 127 location and paste it again. So host all, and I'll do 192.168.0.0.24 for my whole network. I'll leave the MD5 because I don't want to use trust right now. And then I'll do etc. Postgres 9.3 main and postgresql.conf file, the configuration file. And then do a search for listen. There it is right there. And change the listen address to listen to everything. Save that. Exit out as the Postgres user, and now do a sudo service Postgres stop and start. And so now the database should be set up, the user should be there, and I should be good to go. So now I can go over to another box and log in. Oh, not the Postgres user. -user app read only. There we go. So PSQL host -h 192.168.0.24 -u app _read only my app. Log in and give them the right password and select all from test. There you go. Like the video? Give it a thumbs up. I appreciate the feedback.
Also, I'm over at Twitter with the handle @whiteboardcoder.